Good for hockey, good for South Florida, good for the Panthers. Florida is now home to like 3 of the last 5 champs in hockey. With Tampa obviously winning a couple. Now Florida Panthers winning one. It's like, is Florida the new state of hockey? Minnesota's not going to be happy.
No, they're not.
Pissed. Michigan's not going to be happy about that. Pennsylvania's not going to be thrilled about anything, but Florida is seemingly the place for champions. Arizona has a lot of ex-NHL guys who kind of all live there, and their kids play hockey there. And Arizona State, I think hockey is kind of on the rise. They got nothing on Florida. Florida just wins Stanley Cups. That's literally seemingly what Florida does, and hopefully that'll change, and hopefully a real hockey town will win.
Whoa.
No.
You're right. You're right.
No, and when we talk about real hockey towns, I mean,
did you see that live shot from Los Olas Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale Beach? That's palm trees, ocean. I mean, that's hockey town if I ever seen it.
Listen, D-Bud is obviously feeding the narrative here, but with the celebration that's been taking place down there, I got nothing but respect for how South Florida is celebrating this. And the boys have been taking it. Obviously, the Elbow Room has made some appearances. Kachuk's got a WWE title around his waist. He is also drowning people in beer from the Stanley Cup from the second floor of the Elbow Room. Obviously, we've chatted about the Elbow Room. It's a Fort Lauderdale staple, pretty much. Yeah. So if you go down to Fort Lauderdale, you're going to end up in the Elbow Room. My wife thought it was a strip club we were talking about the entire time. It's like nobody's getting naked in the Elbow Room. And if they are, they're not remembering
getting kicked out.
Yeah, they are. Elbow Room is a fantastic time. Not only has it been at the Elbow Room, obviously, it's made its way into the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
Yeah, Kachuk took that thing into the Atlantic Ocean earlier today and took his title off, obviously. Let's make sure that doesn't touch the sand. Somebody needs to hold this. I don't want to throw this thing down. Shout out to the WWE. But I think Lordo needs to take a trip into the ocean, don't you? Yup. Dives in, back bump. Stanley is in there. Now, right in front of us, pause that, please. Right in front of us here with the purse. She's got socks and shoes on. She is a social media person for somewhere. Always going to get the shot. Thank you for your attention to detail, lady, as well. And then obviously it was Stanley Cup was at one of the boys' houses this morning as people were boating by and they were celebrating with the fine people of South Florida. And I think there's some people that maybe didn't even know that they won the Stanley Cup until this morning, and then they saw it and they're like, yeah, we're champions. This is going to help grow the game. This is incredible for the game. And we got brand new champions in the Florida Panthers. I actually love the fact that they won.
Yeah.
You know, the Edmonton Oilers would have been a fantastic story. Connor McDavid, with everything he was able to accomplish this playoff series, with how many points he scored, breaking Wayne Gretzky's records, he was on the rise. The world got introduced to Connor McDavid, the greatest player on ice right now, and he was certainly quite a spectacle. He was dazzling with how fast he was. He was magical with his mitts, and what he did was certainly bring a team all the way back to a Game 7 that we didn't think was going to be possible at one point, and inevitably he loses. Now, the entire world was introduced to this particular character. Next year, we're going to be watching, okay, can he put his team back on his back and lead them back to the Stanley Cup like Kachuk and the boys were able to do down in Florida this past season. But I appreciate the fact that they gave it up. They were up 3-0. They give it up. And if you listen to Paul in his speech afterwards, Coach Paul, he was giving Q&A with Emily Kaplan, whose timing of people she was questioning, it's not her fault. They obviously don't. Kachuk gets the Stanley Cup first time, and they're interviewing a guy that got traded down there at the deadline. He's been around a long time, and they don't even have a camera on Kachuk getting it. Her interview seemingly not even her, just like, hey, Kachuk just got the cup for the first time. We need to be paying attention to that. Not on her. But she's talking to Paul, head coach of the Florida Panthers, and she asked him one question, and all of a sudden the last player just got done with the cup and goes right over to him, and he just turns around, so calm, cool, and collective, and does what he does, and then gets right back into the interview.
And you're now a Stanley Cup champion. Describe your emotions right now.
I can't. I don't know what. Oh, hang on for a second. We got a visitor.
Hold on one second. 2 visitors. Kiss him on the cheek. Let's get a close look at this thing. Is this real? Look at that pose.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Drink it down, soak it in, then obviously he goes to kiss the Stanley Cup. They cut away to go to the crowd. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened last night during the coverage of the Stanley Cup celebration, but Paul Maurice getting his opportunity to do that, and then he goes right back to the interview, and he says, That's Florida Panther way right there. We had to make it hard on ourselves. Nothing's easy. He talked about the entire year. And then they interviewed, I think, another player, I forget who it was, and they said, we don't like anything easy. We like it hard. It's almost like the messaging going into Game 7 was like, hey, this is exactly how we would want this. This is exactly the story of the Florida Panthers. This is exactly the story of this particular team. We could have done it the easy way, yeah, but that's not us. We do things the hard way because the hard way is what leads to great challenges and to great accomplishments. And the Florida Panthers winning Game 7 at home. Yeah. Magical moment. Paul Maurice seems to be the perfect coach for that. He's been on every single sports talk show for good reason. What a great ambassador for the sport of hockey. Ladies and gentlemen, friend of the program, PK Subban.
Yeah.
Okay.
How you doing, brother?
I'm great. Just licking my wounds. Had a long night last night, early morning tonight, but today. All good in the world of hockey.
I know yesterday you were campaigning hard to be a part of Stanley Cup celebrations last night, whether it was the Oilers or the team that you picked, the Florida Panthers in 7 games. Did any of the boys remember and appreciate that you picked them in Game 7? And did you have a chance to celebrate last night with any of the Florida Panthers?
Didn't get the call for the Stanley Cup celebration last night.
No.
Did not get the call. Actually, had a couple of Florida Panthers fans actually let me know that I suck, which is pretty awesome. They were screaming that at me in the building. So that was the highlight of my night, actually. But you know what? Last night got to catch up with all the ESPN folks. We had a couple barley sandwiches, tied one on. Great night. Last night with Mess. Mess had his son in the mix last night, watched the game with us the whole night. Had a couple barley sandwiches with him, and yeah, we're off.
Did it turn into a gong show or with the ESPN crew? Because this is a wrap-up of a hell of a season, right? You guys have been on the road for the last 3 weeks, too, or 4 weeks maybe. So this was kind of a wrap-up for you guys. You did a great job. I hope you guys celebrated how great you guys did for the sport, PK.
Yeah, no, you know what? The whole team, it was a celebratory night. I think for us, that was our Stanley Cup. You know, it's a long road, and it's a huge responsibility at ESPN, specifically with hockey. You know, we're trying to grow the game. We're trying to highlight the superstars, highlight all the bright spots in our game. And, you know, as much as it's got to be entertaining, it's got to be educational too. We had a lot of new fans, I think, learn things about our game and about the players in it. And, you know, we're pretty happy at where we sit right now. We're pretty excited about next season and the future for hockey. But what a day this is for hockey. I mean, the first Stanley Cup in Florida Panthers history, well-deserved. You know, couldn't have gone to a better team. They earned it. They deserved it. They went to the final last year. They lost. They learned. They got back there, and they got it done. And as you heard Paul Maurice said, they didn't want it any other way. They knew it was going to be tough. And that is the way it should be. It's the hardest trophy to win, and it took everything they had to get it done. And that's what stays with you forever. That's why it's a brotherhood. That's why it's not a – Mark Messier said this on the broadcast yesterday. He's sick and tired of hearing people say group. You know, he doesn't even think of it as a team. He thinks of it as a family. And you could see that last night with all the families and the kids on the ice and wives and girlfriends, all the people. You could just see sort of that Charlotte's Web of everybody that was touched and connected to the Florida Panthers organization and those players that helped get it done. Because it's a long journey, man. Like, that's a long road to get there. It's 82-game season, 4 really hard rounds, lots of travel, lots of ups and downs. You know, people have lives too, lots of things going on in your personal life with family and all that stuff. So to get there, it's their moment now, and they should be enjoying it. I'll tell you this right now. You know, listen, I could easily party my way out of the league after winning the Cup. So I hope those guys enjoy it and get back in the gym, because I think they're going to have a good enough team to potentially do it again.
I don't know if you saw there at the bottom, a Canadian team has not won since 1993. Okay? It's our sport.
That's right.
It's our sport.